Okay, so we're going to introduce our speaker. Kirk Triplett was hired in June of 2010. Has it been that long? As Kirkland's fourth city manager. As city manager, Mr. Triplett administers and manages the city according to the mission, policies, and budget adopted by the city council. Mr. Triplett oversees the operation of 12 departments, over 600 employees, and now $751 million biennial budget. Mr. Triplett's committed to keeping Kirkland exceptional and maintaining the quality of life residents enjoy. His top priorities are outlined in the City Work Program, which is adopted by the City Council every 2 years. Please join me in welcoming City Kirk Triplett.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me. This is fun to have my bosses here. This is the first time Toby's been on my left and others have been on my right, so I have to take a photo for So this is actually my first live presentation in 2.5 years since 2020. So I really appreciate that it's a chance to come talk to the chamber. You all have been such a fabulous partner in the quality of life of the city. As Dallas mentioned, tomorrow, June 28th, is actually my official 12th year anniversary with the city of Kirkland. And I'm very honored to be here. I had a chance to look it up. There's only been 4 city managers in Kirkland's history, and as of tomorrow, I will pass 2 others, Terry Ellis and Dave Ramsey. I'll be the second longest serving city manager in Kirkland. Thank you to the council. So should current and future councils keep me on, which I hope they will, I got my eyes set on Outlook 20 years, so 2032. I'm coming for you. So today I'm going to talk to you about the City Work Program. I have about a 20-minute presentation and then lots of times for questions. A couple things I want to say about this. Every single one of the items that I'm going to cover today could be its own 45-minute presentation. So this is super high level. But as was said in the introductory remarks, this is really, the City Work Program is what the City Council adopts to guide us in what we do every 2 years along with the budget process. And its whole purpose is to keep and enhance the quality of life in Kirkland. And hopefully set a streak if you saw the 425 best city in Kirkland. So we're going to keep that going, right? So I also want to say that this is not the daily operations of the city. So what we talk about here is not the daily operations of police and fire and parks. This is really the things that are fundamental to the quality of life of the city that cross departments that are usually quite expensive. And so we're going to talk about that too. But I'm happy at the end to answer any questions about anything related to anything we do in the city. So with that, I'm going to jump in. So the City Council adopts this. We start off with 11 initial City Work Program items, and it expanded to 13. I'm going to cover them all, and I welcome the chance to talk to you afterward. So, I would also say a special thanks to the Port and to Carrie for sponsoring this. Very grateful. And I also thought your remarks were perfect lead into what the City Council set as our top priority, which, with the tragic death of George Floyd in 2020, we adopted the Resolution 5434, which goal was to ensure the safety and respect of Black people in Kirkland. I have a check mark to that as complete, but that is never something that will ever complete. But what we did do is all the elements of 5434 are significantly accomplished. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. There are many, many, many things that we're doing, but some of the highlights are non-police community responders, police transparency and accountability measures, including a new police use of force dashboard, which you can find on our website, and then a whole series of equity and inclusion investments, all of which are captured in our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging 5-year roadmap, which the council has seen several times and is actually going to formally adopt at the July 5th council meeting. And one of the elements, both in 5434 and the roadmap, I'm thrilled to be able to introduce to you, is to hire a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging manager. And Erica Moscoro is here with us today, has joined us just while I was And we're so grateful to have her. We stole her from the state of Washington, and we're going to put her to work. But one of her primary missions in her role is to implement the actions of the roadmap and then to update the roadmap and add new things to it, because this is truly a living document. She's also going to be connecting to the community, so part of the reason we wanted her to have her here is a chance to meet you all. So please introduce yourself, and I know Erica's going to want to come to any events you're at to get a chance to know you better. I also want to introduce, since we're here, I have three folks from the city manager's executive team here. I have our new deputy city manager of external affairs, Beth Goldberg. Beth. And I have my director of public works, Julie Underwood, is here. And our HR director, Chuck Deaver, is here. So thank you very much for being here tonight. One of the fun ones that was on the city work program number 2 was to open Fire Station 24. And this was one of the last big things that we did out of our fire strategic plan. But it was to complete construction and get operations going. And we are thrilled to announce that in December of this year, we had the official ribbon cutting of Station 24. And it is now a fully operational station, has been for 6 months. And here's a shot of the beautiful new station. It's environmentally friendly for the firefighters and also has increased our coverage and reduced our response times throughout the entire city. So we're very, very proud of Fire Station 24. But continuing that theme of fire and emergency medical services, the voters of Kirkland were generous enough to pass Fire Proposition 1 in 2020. And I see Todd over here was on our Community Safety Advisory Group that made that recommendation. So welcome back. Thanks, Todd. So there was 3 big things that came out of that for the first 2 years of the ballot measure. The first was to adopt an implementation plan for the ballot measure. And the council did that in 2021. And then it was to build a brand new Fire Station 27 and renovate our existing Fire Station 22 in Houghton. And then there's 20 new additional firefighters in that ballot measure. And the goal is to hire all of them in the first 3 years. So the Station 27 is fully designed and out to bid and is actually under construction. This is a rendering of this new flagship station, which is up in Totem Lake, just north of Evergreen Health. And fun one, our city council just 2 weeks ago got to smash the walls of Station 22. That's undergoing a major renovation, so it's going to be closed for the next 2 years, but we have a temporary fire station for the firefighters and the crews of Station 22. The photo that you see on the right is actually the demolition of the medical office building that was sitting on the site of Fire Station 27. And this is a photo of our first graduating class of firefighters that were funded by Proposition 1. So things are underway. We're very excited about all the opportunities for improving public safety that comes from this ballot measure. So thanks to the Chamber for supporting that, and thank you to our public for doing so as well. So a key priority that becomes more and more of a priority every day for this council and for the community is affordable housing throughout the city of all kinds and for all levels of income. And so one of the first actions we took, the city council has actually approved targets for the city to hold us accountable. That was a special initiative of Councilmember Kelly Curtis, and the rest of the council embraced it as well. So we're very, very excited to have actually done that. But the targets are daunting, and so we're now going to work really hard to make them happen. We also wanted to infuse affordable housing throughout the station area plan, which I will talk about a little bit later in the presentation. And we have a couple really cool projects that are already starting in affordable housing. So one of the first ones that many people may not yet know about is this project called Horizon at Totem Lake. And this is a project, it's a partnership between Inland and the Horizon Housing Alliance. This is at those of you trying to figure out where this is actually the Buick site. So the Buick dealership chose to move to Bellevue, and we were able to convince the owner to sell this to Inland, which is an affordable housing developer, rather than to the market, where this would otherwise probably be luxury apartments. That's just a little bit next to the Fred Meyer, so that big building you see down at the bottom, that's Fred Meyer in Totem Lake. And you see a rendering of the actual project itself, which the entire set of projects is going to be affordable units, 100%. Of different levels of affordability to 80 to 60 to 50 to 30, and 30 units set aside for families experiencing homelessness. So this is going to be an awesome project, and it's going to open in the winter of 2024. But we're also working on much smaller projects. So one of the things that I know Councilmember Nixon is on the board of Attain Housing. We're working with Attain to build a sixplex in Totem Lake on property they already own. We had a few wrinkles, but we're going to make that happen. It's going to happen. And then another example of that is Friends of Youth have a current apartment building in Houghton that has 7 units. And we're working with them in Arch to remodel it to have 14 new modern places for youth experiencing homelessness. So there are many, many other projects that will be coming, but this is just an example of the highlights. And this has obviously been a huge, huge priority for the region, but it's definitely a priority for our city council. So this was all adopted back in the fall of 2020 when the pandemic was obviously at that point in full rage, and sadly it has not left us. But I have a check mark on this because everything that we wanted to accomplish in the first year and a half, we did, but obviously there's more to do. And there's a particular focus on updating all of our emergency management plans and continuity of government plans and our emergency operations center to get ready. And then also to make sure that we helped the community get through the financial impact of the crisis. And so one of the really cool things we've already done, and this was part of the fire ballot measure, was we have an entire year of personal protective equipment for police and fire in storage, in addition to what we do every day as they respond. And that was the first thing we funded with the ballot measure. We've also made major upgrades to our emergency operations center and to our practices to how do you run an emergency when you have a pandemic. But I think the part that we are all most proud of is that the City Council took the American Rescue Plan Act dollars that we received from the federal government and said, we need to really invest them to help people who are hurting in Kirkland. And so we've been investing them in residents and businesses, in tenants and landlords. And as you can see down there on the bottom, we've already given out almost $1.2 million in direct grants to businesses and tenants and landlords. And this is a cool photo. This is Joseph Choi, Bella Cleaners. They received a $10,000 check from us to get him through the challenges he faced in 2021. So he was clearly very excited about that. We have about another $1 million worth of ARPA funds that we'll be handing out this year to people who qualify. And so those programs are ongoing. But this has been a huge, huge benefit. And it was obviously only made possible by what the federal government did and then the City Council's decision that we needed to pass this money through directly to help those who needed it the most. And then finally, that's a true partnership that we could not have done without Samantha and Beth and the entire Chamber of Commerce. But beyond just helping people who were in arrears or who needed money, we also wanted to help everybody do something that was sustainable going forward and to sort of learn the lessons of the pandemic and how to have a business that could go forward with things like pickup, drop-off, and all of those sorts of things. And so we founded the Shop Local Kirkland Initiative and the Kirkland Cash Initiative, both of which are going gangbusters now, and again, in large part due to the efforts of the Chamber. So thank you, Samantha and Beth, for all you guys have done on this. Infrastructure is always a big ticket item in the city work program, so the next two are about this. So item 6 was both Juanita Drive and 100th Avenue Northeast. These are big multi-year projects. So our focus was completing design and starting construction. Well, because of things like concrete strikes and supply chain issues and so forth, construction's not going to happen, but completing the design will. And a big focus in both of these is on multimodal transportation. So a huge, huge priority for the City Council and we know our community is to make sure that we can do more than just have single occupancy vehicles. So transit and biking and walking. And so we're going to try to make sure we have safe bike lanes and pedestrian paths all the way up Juanita Drive. And on the 100th Avenue project, we're going to actually have a grade-separated bike lane and pedestrian walkway as well. And then Totem Lake Investments, also in the infrastructure category. Totem Lake Investments, this is our one currently designated urban center in the city of Kirkland, but there's more coming, which we'll talk about in a second. So the Totalmic Connector, we had hoped to open this bridge this year. This was another project that was a casualty to the global markets and to the concrete strike. So it's been delayed. But this photo in the upper left was actually taken about a week and a half ago. So steel is rising, concrete is being poured again, and this bridge is starting to rise over Totem Lake. And when it's finished, you can see the rendering of what the final product's going to look like. And this is going to be an enormous connection that not just connects downtown Kirkland and the Cross Kirkland corridor to Totem Lake, but it connects us to the entire East Rail. And I think many of you may know this, but Deputy Mayor Jerry Arnold is the co-chair of the East Rail Advisory Committee and has been a huge participant in making sure the entire length of the corridor is going to be successful. So major investments from the state and the feds on this. So hopefully we'll have one long connection for everybody to use, both pedestrians and cyclists, but we're also going to make sure that internally to Kirkland this happens, and it's going to be pretty spectacular. And Totem Lake Park was opened in July of 2021. Our very own Amy Falcone and her family go there all the time. Now been affectionately renamed Rainbow Park. And one of the things we're very proud of is that this is a all abilities park. And so that's, again, a thing that our council has put a premium on, another way that we try to be inclusive and create a belonging community. So this has been spectacularly successful, and we're very happy about this one, and we're going to try to use it as a model for what we're doing with the rest of our park system. And then 132nd Square Park has been this innovative combination of stormwater and parks. And so what you can see on the right, that's Brian Baker, our intrepid project manager engineer. That's a giant stormwater vault system that is going to be underneath a artificial turf field with lights, and it's going to help us protect the Kingsgate area and Totem Lake from flooding. And on top of that, we'll have new fields that can be used year-round and at night and in the rain, which is going to about triple our ability to provide athletic use in the north end. So very excited about that one on the right. On the left is the rest of the park. And so some really cool things there for the community as well. And this, again, is another one that's going to be all abilities investments. And all of this, we hope to see you at the ribbon cutting sometime this fall. So very cool things to come. One of the big things, and I give special thanks to Julie Underwood as the Public Works Director. Public Works Transportation team has spent so much time on these 405 investments. It's okay, I know you need to actually go to a meeting on this very topic, so. Triggered on number 8. But this is partnering with Sound Transit and Washdot and King County Metro on these 2 mega projects we have going on. The first, of course, the I-405 BRT station on 85th. And you've already received probably a lot of presentations about this, so I just wanted to highlight a couple things. One, this project will win awards when it's finished. It's just unbelievably innovative engineering design with 3 levels. The level in the middle that you can see is where the buses will come off. That's also going to be where people who want to use the hot lanes can actually get on. Right now you can't access them anywhere except for Totem Lake in Kirkland. And then at the very bottom, the 3rd level is localized traffic that wants to take 85th from Rose Hill down to downtown. And then the general purpose lanes for 405 are up there on the very highest level. So this project is what spurred the stationary plan, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. But the other key thing I want to highlight here is you can kind of see it in gray. If you can see the little gray windy things, we put a real premium on making sure that this investment and the next one also had really safe sidewalk and bike lanes and rapid flashing beacons and crosswalks. And honestly, if our team, especially our council members, had not pushed so hard on Washdot and Sound Transit, that's not likely to have been funded at that level. So there was a minimum standard, and we said, no, you need a premium standard in order to keep people safe and really, really make this stuff multimodal and allow people to bike and walk to the bus system. So similarly, the I-405 132nd access ramp. So this is a northbound access ramp to 405 at Totem Lake and an off ramp coming south from 405 to Totem Lake, right by the Kingsgate Park and Ride. And you can see again here, if you look at where the green lines are, we're once again going to be separating bicycles and pedestrians from the traffic. And we worked really hard. We got Washdot to put 8 flashing beacons on all the crosswalks. There was 2 we couldn't convince them to do, so the city of Kirkland actually stepped up to fund it. Our council approved that. So every one of these crosswalks are going to have a flashing beacon to keep people safe on them. So in the midst of the big stuff, we're also really focusing on the little stuff to keep the entire community safe. And that's where leads us into our second urban center. So we have been working to have the Puget Sound Regional Council adopt downtown and the station area as a second urban center and do the station area plan. So I have a check mark next to vision for the 85th Street station area plan. The city council has a special meeting tomorrow night, so I am hoping not jinxing myself, but they're going to be taking this up for possible action. So I thought you all should get credit for seeing it approved first. So, but one of the other pieces of the work program was that they asked that we do a community benefits and impact analysis before they went any further forward. So would doing something like this in the end be a net benefit to the city, or would it be a net impact to the city? And so we spent quite a few amount of time in 2021 making that happen, and the conclusion was, if done right, it could be a net benefit. And the council spent the last year trying to make sure that this is done right. And I think you're going to see that at their action tomorrow. I would like to point out that at your tables, if you got a chance, there's a pamphlet that we handed out that captures a lot of what's happening with the station area plan in a way that you can kind of leaf through a little bit, because the document itself is quite lengthy, and I'm only covering a little bit of it here tonight. So. But the reasons why, about 4 slides on the station area plan, given its enormous impact on the city, the reasons why the city council, past and present, want to look at this is with that investment in transit by Sound Transit, we really had to look and say, hey, 85th Street is a whole host of parking lots and automobile served businesses. And they're wonderful businesses, but at the same time, that's not the highest and best use of this area. We think we can do better. And so the council wants to turn this into a district of innovation and sustainability with plentiful, affordable housing, with opportunities for parks and open space and schools and connected. And this is an example of the form-based code that the council is considering adopting tomorrow. This is on the Costco site, so I just want to emphasize Costco is not redeveloping. They're not leaving. This was just a sample of what it might look like. And we're working very closely with them on this, so they're happy. But what you can see is the kinds of things that we're looking for is beautiful buildings with rooftop amenities, with green roofs, low carbon buildings, things like solar power, and then also a lot of plazas and open space. And then we want to really turn Forbes Lake and Forbes Creek Park into a place that people want to go to. We had a similar issue with Totem Lake that no one really knew it was there. And we think we can actually turn it into a second crown jewel of the city through all this. This is an example, again, of what the form-based code would result in. So think of yourself driving up past Taco Time and some of the other businesses and the muffler shops and stuff. And instead, we hope that with this form-based code adopted, you will be coming to these beautiful places with plentiful, affordable housing, with lots of active storefronts, with beautiful tree canopy and investments in green infrastructure. And all of that's going to be authorized tomorrow. And then, of course, we need the private sector to step up and make it actually happen. Number 10, we're moving into the home stretch here. We also started to update our work programs and our city plans because we're going to be doing a major update to our comprehensive plan in 2044. And the first two big ones that the City Council wanted to adopt are the active transportation plan and the PROS plan. So we actually did adopt the active transportation plan in June, and the PROS plan was presented to the council, but they asked us to do a little more work on that, and it's going to come back for adoption probably in July or August for this final action. And this was to be the final one. It was a balanced budget. This is the year we're doing our budget for 23-24. And the direction was find a way to improve our financial outlook, invest in community priorities, and retain our AAA credit rating, which was affirmed once again by all three credit rating agencies last year. But that's going to be a challenge this year. As you all know, and I'm sure your own businesses are facing, there's some huge headwinds going on right now, right? We have not only, of course, the inflation that's happening. We have the Great Recession, or the Great Resignation, or Great Reshuffling that people are talking about. It's hitting us just as much. Lots of employees turning over, going other places. And then, of course, we have the global issues going on and whether that means we might potentially face recession in the next couple of years. So trying to figure out what a budget is in that. We know our current budget was focused on an equitable, safe, and resilient Kirkland, and we want to make sure that we retain all of those programs and services. And also, how do we meet the service expectations of our community? Because as Kirkland is growing and booming, people want more parks and open space and services, and so we want to find a way to do that. So the reason I have the photo on the right is I want to emphasize that Kirkland has always done this with the community. So we're going to have tremendous outreach in the summer and fall about the budget process and budget priorities. And for 17 years running, we've been awarded for our transparency and accountability in our budget processes. And that's always been a premium for this council and others. And also, we're going to be maintaining our strong financial planning that helps us get that AAA credit rating. So we'll be thoughtful, but we'll be conservative. And my last two, Transportation Benefit District. We're trying to find a way to accelerate some of the Safe Routes to School action plans and the Active Transportation Plan. We came up with about $40 million of projects in these Active Transportation Plan and Safe Route plans, most of which are bicycle lanes, sidewalks, flashing beacons. At the current amount of money that we'll be able to set aside today, it will take us about 30 years to implement these plans. And so one of the things the council said is, can you come up with some options to accelerate this? And one potential option is a transportation benefit district and a $20 car tab. So we're going to be bringing this option back to the council in July. And I know the council's already said, should they decide they want to explore that, they'll then ask us to come out to the community and talk about that as well. And so people can understand what you'll get and the benefit, and we would definitely welcome the Chamber's participation in that conversation. So more to come on this. And I have to say, one of the most exciting ones for me, Lucky 13, is Parks ballot measure, right? So it's been a while, but the City Council asked us to explore going to the ballot in November of 2023 to look at new recreation facilities, more open space and parks, and programs that can enhance the health and well-being of the entire community. And so the centerpiece of that discussion is going to be a new aquatic center or an aquatic and recreation center, or possibly those things combined, or possibly those things separated. But one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a similar advisory group as we did with the Community Safety Advisory Group. And we will be asking the chamber for participation in that. But we're going to ask for the entire community to participate in the fall. And what we're going to do is educate them on all the challenges and opportunities parks face, and then we're going to ask them to make a recommendation in February to the City Council. And then the City Council is going to talk about this and decide whether to go to the ballot probably about the middle of 2023. So we want this to be a full community conversation, and it absolutely needs to be a conversation with the business community. So looking forward to that. So that is a super high-level overview of some major stuff that we're doing. And I would conclude by saying, if you look at all this, you got to say, we have the hardest working council in the state of Washington. I got to tell you, all this stuff that I covered, special meetings, packets that are 800 pages long, I mean, just a relentless focus by the council and taking the actions necessary to keep the quality of life of the city. So I'm so grateful to have a chance to work with all of you, and I'm just grateful for what you do for our community. So thank you very much for having me here, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Kurt, I'll ask a question.
It's just an additional topic that I'd like you to comment on, and it's not in the work plan because it was an opportunity that arose after the work plan was adopted, is Houghton Village. Can you talk a little bit about what the city has already done with Houghton Village and what kind of the vision and process will be going forward?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so when we were having our conversation about the stationary plan, one of the things that came up about the community benefits of the stationary plan was we need more space for schools, we need more space for affordable housing, and one of the things we heard was we really need a space for nonprofits, whether it's in the arts community or human services, that even they are getting priced out as well. And so as all of those things were being talked about in the context of the stationary plan, this Houghton Village property came up for purchase. And again, thank you to our council for being willing to act. I came to them and said, I think if we bought this could be the kind of thing where we could accomplish a lot of those same things in a smaller way at Houghton Village. So City Council adopted a resolution authorizing us to buy it. We have now purchased Houghton Village. As Beth would say, we own a mall. We own a strip mall now, which is unusual. But the goal, the way the City Council did it is we bought it on a 3-year interfund loan, which means we actually have to pay it back in 3 years. So we have 3 years to figure out the plan for Houghton Village. And what we're going to be doing is working with anyone and everyone to partner on what could be there. But I think the main focus is going to be potential school partnerships, since Lakeview Elementary is close by, potential affordable housing, and potential nonprofit housing. So those are the concepts, but we're going to be launching another process with that as well, and we certainly welcome feedback from anyone at the chamber about that. Thank you. Samantha, and then Brenda.
So you touched on it just briefly, Totem Lake, the actual lake. So the number of years that I've been here, 10 years, one of the questions I get often is, why is it called Totem Lake? Because a lot of people don't know there's a lake there. And I know previously you talked about more access to the lake itself. What is planned for that actual lake as far as accessibility and making sure people know it's there?
So it's great. I don't actually know where the name came from. That's a great question. That's probably in a Matthew Macaulay book or something, but that would be worth checking out. Yeah, I'm sure. I do believe it came from the mall too. Like there's an intersection, but that's a great question. So when we did the master plan for Totem Lake, one of the big themes of the master plan was reveal, because most people didn't know there was a lake there, right? And so if you actually go to the park has sort of a balcony overlooking the lake, and then one of the recommendations for the boardwalk through the lake was actually to let people see it. There's a whole phase 2, which is about $8 million that we haven't yet got to, where there's another set of boardwalk that will go and connect to Totem Lake Boulevard. There was a lot of discussion initially about, do you let people in the lake? And there were some ideas debated back and forth, like kayaking or canoeing or stuff like that. And the decision at that time was the lake is really a giant wetland and is one of the last pristine areas we have, and so we should leave it undisturbed. So at the moment, we don't have any plans for people getting in the lake, but that's certainly something that could be revisited by future councils. So,
When I was a kid, I lived in Kingsgate,
yeah, and did you
and me and my buddies would go down, ride our bikes there, and actually swim
swim in the lake?
in that lake, which was probably not a good idea because it's pretty much a swamp that time. So that's 1970.
Wow, that's a great story. So there you go. Yeah, so,
And maybe mention the overlook from the connector.
yes, thank you. That's a great point. I won't flip back. But yes, one of the things, the reason that we had the whole circular thing is we also wanted to reveal the lake from the bridge. And one of the features in that, there's going to be a little, I'll call it a plank. I don't, but it's an overlook. There'll be an extension that you can go out and you can look down on the lake from the bridge. It's about halfway through the circle. So, Brenda, and then Brenda.
This little handout says that the city council will be considering a new plan to accommodate taller buildings, but it doesn't say how tall.
Yeah.
Do we know how tall?
Yes. So, well, we know the building envelope, right? So if you look at the very front, there's a map, and the map shows the potential heights the council's considering in each of those sections. So the tallest are in the red section. And the section that is the Lee Johnson property has a maximum height of 250 feet. And then the section that's on the Costco side has a maximum height of 150 feet. But the development agreement that we're talking with Google about, which was just presented a couple days ago, they're not looking to build 250-foot tall towers. They're looking to build, and we're going to hear a lot more about this in July, but they're looking to build with mass timber, which is a very sustainable form of development. And mass timber actually is currently capped structurally at 180 feet. But on top of that, they're going to need some appurtenances that allow them to be sustainable, like solar panels and ways to bring in reverse circulation, so natural air circulation. So there's going to be stuff on top. So the 250 feet, we're not sure exactly where their stuff's going to end, but the towers themselves are not going to be 250 feet. And that's the only section where there's anything like that height is in the red section where the Costco site and the Lee Johnson site is. Those are the commercial mixed-use sections. After that, it starts to taper down to 85, then 65. And again, I think, are the heights in there, Mayor? I guess I should have looked closer. Okay. It's probably very, very tiny print. So, yeah, sorry. We had to take really big posters and turn them into a small mailing. This mailing actually went to all the homes in Kirkland so that people would know about this. So it wouldn't catch anyone by surprise, given how big it is. Brenda.
Yeah, over the years, there's been a lot of interest in, I guess, fighting over the land on Lake and Central. Is there any thoughts currently about what that might look like in the future?
Thank you. So the question was about Lake and Central. So the city owns the lot at Lake and Central, and then there's the bank next door. So about 4 years ago, the council did set aside money to do some assessment of Lake and Central and bring some options to the community of what could happen there. And they asked us to explore all options, one of which was turn it into an open plaza, no parking, just sort of very European style concept. Another option was underground parking with the plaza, and then start to ramp up from there, underground parking with retail and housing on top or some other thing. So we were supposed to come back with a lot of options, and this was one that really ended up being a casualty to the pandemic. So the council gave us study money, and sadly we didn't actually use it yet. It's still carried forward, and so at some point I think we could bring that back. I think our planning focus ended up shifting to the station area too right after that, because we weren't expecting the sound transit ballot measure and everything that sort of came from it. So we've really focused our energy up there. But it is very much a live issue eventually, and there is some money to start assessing what the range of options might be. But I would predict the council might need a little bit of break from growth and development discussions for a bit. So I don't know when we'll take that back up, but probably 2023 or beyond. Yeah. But certainly there's money there. Beth.
Thank you for your presentation, Kurt. You did a great job. I wanted to just touch on one of the issues that Samantha and I deal with our businesses daily is the crisis that we have with service industry and our small businesses, even our larger businesses, our hotels, with trying to get that level in here. And then, so I'm curious if the city has had plans or has plans to do a higher level sort of feasibility. It's great that we can see some more affordable housing, but I wonder if that is going to actually on the long term fit the need that we have that's right now that's really sort of in crisis mode for those businesses, having hiring issues.
Yeah. So sadly, we don't have much of an answer for that yet either. So I know everyone is struggling with this. Kirkland's struggling with this. A lot of our lower level positions in parks and public works and stuff are also going unfilled because we have the same challenges. And there's no easy solution. I mean, one of the reasons we're trying to focus on getting a lot more housing built is just to have more places for people to go that's more affordable. And what we have tried to do in Kirkland, it's a little bit different from some of the other cities, I think, that are doing this, is when our stuff gets built, we try to keep it at 50% of median income or below. So really places where service industry folks can be. But it's going to take partnerships. It's going to take partnerships like Microsoft has done and Facebook has done. Others who are bringing in a lot of the higher tech jobs are going to have to help us with this. We've talked in the past about, do you need to have things like company housing, using the models like you see at like resort communities where the main businesses actually set aside housing, build housing, right? So I don't think there's any easy answer, and we're just trying to build as much as we can, as fast as we can. That's why you see something like that Totalmic Horizon project, because folks could live there. And we have done in this past studies by ARCH, Regional Coalition for Housing, which the housing, when it gets created, tends to be populated by people who live and work closely. So it does end up being good housing for people in the service industry, but we're afraid there's no immediate relief, unfortunately. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm JP Sugar. It's actually my first time here, and I really appreciate all the work that you and the City Council have done. This is very impressive.
Well, thank you.
The city is very dedicated to DEI, and my business has a number of disabled and otherwise constrained members. And one of the things I'm very excited by is the apparent focus on heterogeneous construction. But I do notice in the pictures, like, it does sort of feel like everything is still very car-centric. And one of the challenges that these people have is like owning a car, and commute costs and all of those things are a significant portion of their day-to-day challenges, especially gas prices being what they are and things like that. So is this what I'm hoping for here? Maybe you can confirm, is that there's an idea that maybe people can live and work and shop kind of in a smaller area that's like accessible via like walk and bike, rather than having to drive to their workplace and drive to their grocery store.
Yeah. No, that you summarized it perfectly. I would absolutely say you should connect with Erica for a further conversation, because I know she'd love to connect with you on that. So in the last comprehensive plan, and then leading to the stationary plan, this concept of 10-minute neighborhoods came up. And the City Council's sort of smart growth theme for almost a decade has been denser communities, complete communities linked by transit, and with the ability to walk and bike, right? So we've been putting more and more emphasis on that in our planning documents. And part of the reason we pushed so hard for Sound Transit to build this station here, which a lot of people didn't want us to do, not all of you, but the rest of the world, the rest of the region, was we pushed really hard with King County Metros, like, to create non-car options. And so the stationary plan will be that. The goal is that it's housing and jobs and retail services all close together. But we're also trying to do the same thing in Totem Lake and at Bridle Trails. So that those of you who are familiar with the Bridle Trail Shopping Center, we're looking at a project that would do the same thing there, create housing over the retail. So it takes a little bit of time for all this to come out, but that is our goal, is to create these complete communities where someone could live, work, and play and shop all in the same area, and then connected by transit. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Phil?
Thanks, Kirk. So on the topic of play that you just talked about, as an event in the event community, we love Kirkland. It's fantastic. It's fun. As you look at the economic recovery, especially the COVID, all the events coming back from COVID, and we're looking forward to fantastic crowds this year. But the future of parks and cost recovery for the parks, please be thoughtful of the energy that it takes for community events to happen. And so as you look at what parks needs and how the economic recovery has to happen for the city, just be mindful that full cost recovery for an event is very challenging.
Yeah.
So that's on the fun side.
Yeah.
But they are a business, and so we do have to make sure that we are paying our fair share. But just making sure that it's thoughtful in the future as we come back. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that, and we will be presenting the council with options, right? So we always give options, and I know that they'll be trying to be very thoughtful about the whole set of the issues. So thanks, and thanks for all the events you do here. They also contribute to our quality of life. So. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the time. Thank you for all you do as a chamber.